Hello everyone, Morad here and welcome to the third lecture. In this lecture, I will present an important concept in this mini-series which I call a learning device that goes beyond a simple perceptron or an artificial neural network. So I consider any block or black box that have the capacity to learn from inputs and to feed an output a learning device. So those learning devices, we found them in the nature, for example, biological neural cells, they have this capacity to adapt and learn from patterns. And also the artificial neural networks or spiky neural networks, to some extent, they have the capacity to memorize and learn from patterns and adapt to fit an output. And also we have other phenomena that are close to learning devices, not exactly 100% matched to a learning device, but we can adapt them, such as ferromagnetic materials. So they have the capacity to learn and store information. And also we can, perturb some field and introduce some disruption of these fields to store information, and also maybe in quantum fields and the human collaboration, animal collaboration in societies. So they can learn and adapt to achieve a goal. So, and maybe there are other phenomena that's yet to be discovered. What I have found in these learning devices, they really have some properties. So they deal with normalized numerical inputs to represent low energy normalized numerical signals. So like brain neurons. And also the output, either it is a signal, measurable signal, or an activity, such as in our brain. So the activity that is generated is somehow translated to a perception. So it is an activity that represents an output. And they have the capacity to adapt and learn. So what I mean by adaptation and learning is they have the capacity to interpolate the inputs and extrapolate maybe, and also compress the data to accomplish a task or a goal. And the more density they have, the more capacity and memory they have. And one other important property is the composability. So they are composable like Legos. So if a learning device is capable of solving a mapping from the input to an output, which means learning from input to fit an output. So if we combine somehow in a structure these learning devices that independently can solve a problem, both of them can solve a problem. This is a hypothesis that I'm working on, and I have done a lot of experiments to show that. So I will devote another series to explain this research. But for the moment, these learning devices, they collaborate. So they have the capacity to distribute and the work and the effort to do to achieve or to accomplish a task. So according to some law behind that is to be found, such as low energy consumption or looking for equilibrium, but they collaborate to solve the goal in a manner that respects the law. And what is really, really important here is that we can, and this is just an hypothesis, I'm working on it, and really I have some interesting results, and the state of the art architectures are showing the same thing, that they can accept instructions of or for the flow of learning. And this is really helpful for explainable AI. So I will explain that. Imagine that we have a goal of passing an exam, and we have three persons or three people. So either they can collaborate in a manner that's, dividing the chapters of the material or required for the exam. So they divide it equally, and each person will revise a chapter or two chapters according to some law, and they will collaborate to pass the exam. Or also, each one will revise all and understand all the chapters, and also with this strategy, they will pass the exam. So there are many strategies of collaboration, but the goal is passing the exam. And if we take just one person, it can also pass the exam. But if they collaborate, they could do better and faster and efficiently. They could do that job efficiently. So at the end, an architecture or a structure is nothing but a composition or a combination of learning devices and math operations, such as sum, multiplication, concatenation, sine, cosine, softmax, and maybe advanced mathematical operations such as the convolution and Fourier transform, etc., and Taylor series, etc. Name it. So a learning device is just a device that has the capacity to learn and map input outputs, and it has its own parameters that we could adjust and fine tune to make it performance for independently for a goal. And also we can control the flow of learning of a collaboration of learning devices. So for this one, I have prepared some a code implemented in PyTorch to illustrate this idea. I found that PyTorch is the closest framework to this capacity of composability or combination of learning devices and fine-tuning them. But I work on a different platform that I will present at the end of this mini-series to make it really intuitive and exploitable by different people from different backgrounds, so to avoid using technical terms. But here I have prepared a code of a learning device which will try to fit integers to their squares. So it is a simple two linear layers. So for the people that understand PyTorch, but it is not necessary. And I have, a training loop to try to fit this number to square. So I plot the original one, see the square, which is the blue, and the predicted one, which is close to some extent with an accuracy. And also, I will just comment that I have prepared two other devices with different density and different activation functions. And the third one, which uses the sigmoid and GLU linear activation or activation function. And both of them, or the three devices, achieve the fitting of a number to its square. At least they do the interpolation. I haven't tested the extrapolation, but it is not the goal. But the goal here is what? If we combine two devices, so I have defined another learning device which is composed of two sequential linear devices or learning devices. So when I train this one, I have done a training and a plot, and what I figured out that the convergence is really accurate, and the fit is really close to perfect. The red one is the approximation, the predicted, and the original is the blue. And what I have done here, let me go back to the schema here. So I have implemented this simple architecture, which is sequential two learning devices. And what I try to understand is how each learning device reacts to the input. So I have injected the input to the first learning device after training of the collaboration. And the second thing I have done is injecting the input directed to the second learning device and see if one of them learned the more information about the square. So what I have see here, that the second learning device, which is the orange, is learning kind of the square but linearly, and the second one is presenting something that is close to a x cube here maybe, but the collaboration of them gives a perfect fit. But when I rerun it second time or many times, they give different curves. Here, for example, the second execution, the final goal of fitting the square is close to perfect, at least for the interpolation. And here you see that the first device learned some kind of inverted very wide square, and this one is learning some kind of square here and linearity. So each time they produce something different, but the final goal is close to perfect. So I have another series to go deep in this approach, and here just try to retain that if we have a learning device which is have some capacity of learning, if we combine them, they will have more precision, and they will collaborate to solve that goal. And if you see this learning device this way, you can now come back to the original transformer architecture with the goal of translation, and see that it is composed with learning devices, and they are linked with mathematical operations. So it is nothing but that. And the goal was the translation between two languages. And here my question was, why not just a very, very deep and wide neural network? I mean, one learning device, and it should magically do the same thing. And the answer was not. One learning device is not capable of solving a complex goal, so you need to compose many blocks with some mathematical operations in order to decompose this complex goal to simple tasks. And this is exactly what's happened here in the translation model of the transformer architecture. So first, they started with a learning device, and they wish that it will learn how to present the inputs. Then once hopefully presenting the inputs, if we add some positional information, from there we can build another blocks that could understand and have more meaningful presentation with mechanisms such as attention, etc., and go beyond that to solve the translation. So I will go in detail in each block here, but for the moment, my hypothesis and the research I'm working on is that these learning devices, if they are composed somehow and controlled with the mathematical operations, we can build explainable architectures to achieve a complex goal such as reasoning, predicting next token, translation, text meaning, and even in image and audio and robotics, etc., and try to solve those kind of problems that are NP hard or NP complete, and those kind of really complex problems. So with that said, I hope you gathered the main idea of this learning device, and I hope you like it. And see you in the next lecture, in which we are going to discuss another important aspect and concept as well that will help us to achieve the goal of our two societies that try to understand symbols and translation between symbols of the two societies. So Murad here, and see you next time.